Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about FANG companies. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how many developers over 35 can solve a FANG style interview question? Among those who cannot solve them, how many are still capable developers? Well, I don't know how many people over 35, it's sort of like asking how many people over 35 can do calculus, or how many people over 35 know how to bake a pie. Like, it's such a loose, weird question, but I suppose that their idea here is that once you reach a certain age, you are too stupid to do certain things. And so I'll just pull this all the way back to me because I am over 35 and I am, as far as I know, well, I haven't checked my rating. It's not that great on lead code and so forth. I've solved a bunch of questions and so forth, and there are some of them I can do, and some of them I'm not so good at doing and so forth. And then we can talk about whether or not you consider me to be a capable developer. I'd like to think that if you're watching this, that you have some hint, unless like this is literally the first video you watch on my little hobby channel here. I'd like to think that you have watched due to the suspicion at the very least, or like maybe you're just sitting there making fun of me. Who knows? But you're probably getting a sense that I at least know some stuff about software development and so forth. And whether or not I'm capable or not, well, I'll let you make the decision for me. So in the, I think it's, what is it, 10 years ish, 12 years, something like that, that I've worked as a software developer, I have reached a higher, I've more than tripled my salary, and that's not because I've necessarily have, you know, gone and tried to job hop or anything like that. It is because I've gone from being a junior software developer to today being a principal engineer, and by the time this airs, hopefully even higher, because right now I'm in the interviewing process for a major company for going. They invented, and I'm not joking now, they invented another job for me that is even higher up. So I'm not sure what that tells you, but basically that's me after 10, 12 years ish, which is where most of the senior developers that I work with, they are either under 35 or over 30. It doesn't really matter. Even the guys and girls who have been doing this for 20 years have not reached that point. And whether or not that means that I'm capable, again, I'll leave that to you. I also have a few open source projects that are like nothing major that you probably heard about, but they are a few of them fairly popular. I've gotten some one or two like little token awards for a few things I've done and so forth. Been invited to a few conferences, stuff like that. I am, and this is stuff that becomes unconfirmable for you. You can go and check with all my all the like my other employers and so forth if they feel like I'm a capable developer. And well, apart from those things, the top of my mind, I would like you to take. You can take a look at my different videos that I've made for various concepts of like both front end, back end. Uh, so far, I've probably passed more or less every technical interview I've ever had. The ones, as I mentioned, that I haven't been doing so well with are like the tougher elite code style questions, or like which is basically very die-hard computer sciencey things, right? And that's the thing that I usually try to make people understand, that there is a difference, guys, between being really good at leads code style questions in computer science and algorithmic problems and being a very capable developer. So to give you a really good example of this in action, at my current job, there we have one or two developers who have been doing this for like they are older than me, and they are really good at these sorts of questions. Like that's something that they do for fun. Like they do like code katas and stuff like that just because they enjoy really to do that. It's not something that I do that regularly because I have other interests. But their manager is coming to me. Like I have a higher role and more responsibility within the company, and the reason being not because I'm necessarily a better developer when it comes to solving lead code style of questions and so forth, but I'm the only person currently who has proven to be able to take a low quality system or a system that has a lot of issues and design flaws and like bad code and stuff like that, and turn that into something that really really works. And that's something that I think is important for you to understand, that there is, just because you're doing software doesn't necessarily mean that you're good or bad at every aspect of the craft. There are some things you might be good at, some things you might be bad at. It's the same thing with any profession or anything whatsoever. Like, I mean, if you take any task that has multiple components into it, you might be good at one thing or bad at another thing. It's the whole thing that we usually evaluate. And then when you sort of laser focus on something as, say, implementing an elite code, like an interview style of question or something like that, and that is the only measurement, then that's a very one-dimensional way of looking at whether or not you're capable. There are absolutely situations where this is absolutely true, where if you can't solve certain very simple problems, it's very unlikely that you will be able to solve more complicated problems. But there is like, as I like to say, there's a sweet spot. There is like if you take something like, say, American football or something like that, if you tell the players to only focus on body strength so that they're really really tough, and they don't focus on, like, say, running, well, that's a problem. Because even if you're really really strong but you can't run the ball into the end zone or so forth, like, then you're imbalanced. And any task that requires something that is a little bit more complicated than a very one-dimensional point of evaluation to meet success, like, say, running, for example, that's a pretty easy in terms of like complexity-wise. What you need to master, you need to get as fast as possible from one point to another. But if you were to, say, do orientation or something like that, where you have a map, all of a sudden you need to be able to read the map and do the running. You can't just pick one or the other here, right? And that's how it works for software development as well. If you are just really really good at solving lead code style of questions, that will help you, say, in a FANG company and so forth, or like an interviewing process, but it may not necessarily be the whole truth as to whether or not you're going to be a capable developer. So what I want you to take away from this is that, well, first and foremost, I cannot understand a person who would ask a question where, like, there's an age, like, so over 35 you're basically stupid, right? Because have you, I'm just wondering now, have you looked at the age of the gurus of the IT world and the best of the best, and like we stand on the shoulder of giants, these types of people who basically invented our entire profession and everything around it? They're not in their 20s usually. And the second thing I think you should consider is whether or not it is a question of if you're capable. Can you determine if a person is capable if they are dealing with a situation, with a profession or any task that has multiple components to it, by just stating that they're good at one? Because, as I said, if you are doing anything that has more complexity to it than like one dimensional thing, like you can get from one point to another in a certain amount of time and so forth, all of a sudden there's like many things that might be in play in order to reach the end result. And I'd like to think, at the very least, that all the people I've ever worked with, who may or may not, some of them are able to solve lead code style questions or like FANG company styles of interviews. Like, it depends on the complexity of the question. Because, I mean, the Fibonacci algorithm or like the FISBUS algorithm, that's an interview question you could find at a FANG company, but you could also have to implement a highly sophisticated like Dijkstra algorithm with I don't know, weights and stuff like that. It doesn't matter, right? You can pick your poison here, right? And maybe they may not be able to solve that specific question, but at the same time, that's not necessarily the thing that determines whether or not they're capable. What is, I argue, the thing that determines if they're capable or not is what are they going to do in the work. If you put a person who can't solve like these sorts of very complicated, highly algorithmic questions on a job where that is the main thing that they are going to be doing, well, then they're probably not going to be very capable developers. But if you take the same person and you put them in a standard web project or something like that. That's what I like to say about people who like give, say, front-end developers die-hard computer science algorithmic questions. Like you're testing them on something that is probably not the most relevant thing to determine whether or not they can do the job. And if you take them and give them a challenge that is more in line with the sort of training that they have and the experiences that they've had, they're probably going to be pretty capable. And that's why this question to me sort of indicates this. Well, it's in my opinion, a really stupid way of thinking, and it indicates that you don't truly understand what, in my opinion at the very least, what makes someone capable and the realities of what it means to do software development as a professional. Have a great day.